Well, in Baton Rouge, they say, Will Campbell's small arms grew 6 inches that day. Will he go to the Patriots? We'll tell you here on Pat's Cast.
Fourth picks coming, clock's ticking fast. Pat's Cast asking who's built to last. Drake May's the future.
Welcome to Pat's Cast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Good to be with you. We've said it many times. We're going to say it again. There are 2 blue chip players in this year's NFL draft. We all know who they are. Patriots fans would riot if they don't select one of these 2 players and they were available at 4th overall. And of course, that's Abdul and Travis Hunter. However, the hope of one of those guys falling to the Patriots at 4th overall has really shrunk over the last 24 hours or so. And while the betting odds still show Travis Hunter or Abdul potentially falling to the Patriots, no longer is Travis Hunter the betting favorite, according to DraftKings, to fall to the Patriots at 4th overall. And 24 hours ago, he was far and away the betting favorite, but a lot has changed in that time. Now the New York Giants are the favorite, followed by the Cleveland Browns, and then the New England Patriots. And that's because some of the recent news has not helped the Hunter hopefuls. Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans, I think we can pretty much lock that up. That's going to be the number 1 pick unless something changes in the next 4 weeks or so. Abdul to Cleveland at number 2 seems increasingly likely, highly likely, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. He said, there's no way I see Abdul falling to the Patriots at 4th overall, or it's highly unlikely he falls to the Patriots at 4th overall. And then you have what the Giants just did, which is adding 2 veteran quarterbacks via free agency. They now have Jameis Winston and they have Russell Wilson. Now, it still might make sense for them to draft Shedeur Sanders at 3rd overall. You have a future developing quarterback who can learn from a couple of contrasting veterans there, contrasting personalities. I mean, everyone loves Jameis Winston, and Russell Wilson is the corniest individual on the face of the earth. But would they take Sanders? I don't know. He's considered a reach there, according to most, and he could even fall out of the first round if he gets past the Jets, the Raiders, and the Saints. I've seen mock drafts where Shedeur Sanders isn't even taken in the first round. So he could go in the top 3. He falls out of the top 3. It's not a sure thing the Jets or the Raiders or the Saints take him. In all likelihood, it doesn't seem like the Giants will be eyeing Shedeur Sanders, at least at this point in time. My gut is telling me it's 80-20. They take Travis Hunter. And my brain was telling me it was 50-50, but after reading the recent betting odds, I don't think Travis Hunter is walking through that door in New England, and Abdul looks to be going to Cleveland if Adam Schefter's reporting is correct. Now, it is lying season, right? Teams are floating out different ideas. Maybe even the Cam Ward thing is a lie. We don't know, but as of right now, it looks like the 2 blue chip players are going to be off the board for the Patriots. And look, I want New England to take Travis Hunter. That's what I'm rooting for. I think that's what most fans are rooting for, or Abdul And there's still a real possibility, right? Look, the Giants could take Sanders at 3rd overall. Like I said in the last podcast, Brian Daboll looking to save his job. They can improve their win total a little bit this year with Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson, and then you got a good young quarterback coming up. That's enough to keep your job for at least another year. So they have incentive to do it. There's also a rumor going around that Cleveland is talking about trading the number 2 overall pick for Dak Prescott, and the Cowboys would draft Shedeur Sanders instead. That was reported from a Cleveland area guy, a local sports writer who used to be on the radio. I don't know his name. Used to be on the radio, now has a podcast. Not sure how valid that rumor is, but look, we know Jerry Jones is enamored by Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders, and head coach Brian Schottenheimer seemed like an odd hire. Perhaps he's just a stopgap for Coach Prime when he comes in next year. That happens, then you'd be guaranteed one of Travis Hunter or Abdul Cleveland could also stick and pick Shedeur Sanders. A lot of people are connecting Sanders and Cleveland, so you're guaranteed a blue chip player that way. I think the chances of the Patriots getting one of these 2 guys is probably like 33% at this point. A lot could change between now and end of April. The draft, I think, is exactly 4 weeks away from today. But as I said, my gut is telling me it will go Cam Ward, first overall to Tennessee, Abdul Carter, second overall to Cleveland, and then Travis Hunter to the New York Giants. In this scenario, do I really buy that the Patriots will draft the best player available, like Elliot Wolf said, like Elliot Wolf is preparing us for? No, I don't believe it at all. Ashton Genty is the best player available at that point, and I know a lot of Patriots fans are rooting for it, but I just do not see them taking a running back at fourth overall, especially without a good offensive line, right? Like, it is the most dependent position on the field. It can be a night and day difference depending on the blocking that you have in front of you. And look, Ashton Genty is a good enough player that he doesn't necessarily need good blocking in front of him for him to be an effective running back. I mean, they should consider it, right? I mean, he is an incredibly gifted athlete, a little undersized for a 3-down back, but do I see it happening? No. I don't think the Patriots are going to take a running back at fourth overall. As good as Ashton Genty is, and maybe he is the third blue chip player in this draft, but running backs, this is not the 1980s or 90s, right? You know, Saquon Barkley was taken, I think, in the top 3, but even then, didn't work out for him. It's not like they were winning games in New York. He had to go to a winning team in Philly. I just don't see it happening. Mason Graham is considered the next player on most draft boards. I could potentially see Mike Vrabel wanting the Patriots to draft Mason Graham. You know, a smart, aggressive player, a little bit undersized for a defensive tackle, but there's a reason many mock drafts have had him going to the Patriots at fourth overall. Who knows? Maybe they've scouted Tet McMillan or Tyler Warren as their next best available player on the draft board. But look, none of these are great options, right? Because we know the biggest need for the Patriots now. It's you know, they still need a number 1 wide receiver of the future, and that's why I hope Travis Hunter is available, because I think he can be that guy, and I think he can be that guy right away, paired with Stephon Diggs. Takes the pressure off Diggs a little bit, makes life easier for the other receivers. But they got Diggs now. You can survive with this receiving core if it stays as is, and it might. They could add a Tyler Lockett. They could go after another player via trade. But the biggest need right now is left tackle. And there is no Joe Alt in this draft, unfortunately. But they will draft for need, in my opinion, if Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter is available. They're going to pass on the blue chip potential player, Ashton Genty. And I think they're going to take Will Campbell as their future left tackle in this scenario. And things are starting to play out that way, right? We know the Patriots, they've been trying to get a left tackle. We know they plan to take a swing at Ronnie Stanley. They did take a swing at Ronnie Stanley. I know on record they didn't, because he re-signed before free agency started, but we know there's a pre-tampering, illegal tampering period before the tampering period. The Patriots were very aggressive, from all the reports that I've read, going after Ronnie Stanley, who ultimately returned to the Baltimore Ravens despite whatever the Patriots were offering him, which I would assume is pretty good money, because the Patriots have to spend a lot of money, and they still need to spend money, even after the Diggs deal. They were in on Cam Robinson, despite conflicting reports about him being a poor culture fit. Well, according to Phil Perry, the latest from Phil Perry, said the Patriots were in on Cam Robinson, he just didn't want to go to New England. They looked into Dan Moore Jr., struck out there. Patriots have struck out time and time again at left tackle, not just this offseason, but in recent years. Caden Wallace, they drafted him last year, was supposed to start at left tackle. Was supposed to come in behind Chuks Okorafor and learn from him. That was a disaster. Now we don't even know if he can start at right tackle, his original position down the road. Caden Wallace might be a wash. Vidarian Lowe, he improved a lot last year. I think he can be a solid backup. I'm comfortable with Vidarian Lowe being our backup, but not a starter. No chance. Isaiah Wynn was a disaster. Couldn't stay healthy. Subpar play when he was on the field. Now he's a guard for the Miami Dolphins, if he even stays on that roster. Trent Brown served as lazy duct tape his last stint in New England and couldn't keep the weight off. They're going to look to fill that position with the best talent possible. And left tackle is arguably the second or third most important position in the NFL. Look, a week ago, if you asked me, should the Patriots draft Will Campbell, I would have said no way. And I still don't love the idea, to be honest, but I'm warming up to it. mentioned yesterday that Tony Pauline was reporting the NFL Combine was measuring players roughly a half-inch short, or at the very least they were measuring tackles a half-inch short of what they were being measured at by their respective programs or at their pro days. And we know what the threshold is, right? Every Patriots fan knows what the threshold is at this point. 33 inches. If you're 33 inches or longer, you have the arms to be a starting NFL left tackle. Anything less than that, you probably should be a guard. Well, this was confirmed yesterday. Tony Pauline's reporting was confirmed. NFL Scouting Combine, Will Campbell's arm measurements came in at 32 and 5/8. LSU Pro Day came in at exactly 33 inches, so right at the threshold. And this wasn't LSU trying to boost his draft stock, right? Like, people had this idea that, oh, he's back home, he's got his coaches there, they're going to give him an extra half inch and make sure that he goes somewhere in the top 5 instead of falling somewhere in the top 15. No, these measurements are done by NFL scouts. So they really were just messing up at the NFL Combine. And I guess historically this is kind of normal, that tackles tend to be measured a little bit shorter at the Combine than they are by their programs and than they are at their pro days. Will Campbell, this is accurate with Greg Bedard's reporting a couple months ago where he said he was at 32 and 7/8. So I guess he grew an eighth of an inch. But, you know, he's still right at that threshold, right? Will Campbell has short arms still, even at 33 inches. That is still short arms for an NFL left tackle. And the biggest worry with him is his shoulders, right? Like, very tight shoulders. His wingspan is even more depressing than his arm length. There's a lot of red flags there. But Will Campbell was asked about his arm length on Wednesday. He said, quote, "For 2 years, nobody had any measurements on me, and nobody said anything about my play. So now, all of a sudden, arm length decides if I'm a good player or not. I think it's BS. Any decision makers in the NFL, they don't really care. It's all people who don't coach, and they don't coach for a reason." Well, first of all, there are plenty of coaches who care. I can guarantee that. Now, I can't tell whether or not to like Will Campbell more or less from this quote. From a PR standpoint, if you're trying to boost your draft stock, probably not a wise decision to say that's BS in response to criticism. That being said, these young athletes never really get a chance to speak up for themselves, especially before they're drafted. And, you know, there's this idea that when they do, they're a diva, they're a bad culture fit, they need to shut their mouth. But I think there's a big difference between a guy with a bad attitude who's a distraction versus a guy briefly defending himself on something that has nothing to do with his actual play. Now, the arm length concerns are legit, right? Like, there's a reason shorter arms in college don't necessarily translate to the NFL level. It could very well affect Will Campbell's play. But I don't know. I don't really have an issue with him saying this. I wish he didn't say that's BS, but everything I've heard about Will Campbell, smart, high IQ football player, good locker room guy. You know, in his defense, the only reason we're talking about drafting him at number 4 overall is because he is a really good player. If he had 34-inch arms, we'd be praying he falls to the Patriots at number 4. So let's get into Will Campbell a little bit here. If you want to hear about some of the other tackles the Patriots could potentially take, let's say they don't take Will Campbell or a tackle at 4th overall, or they trade back and take a different position, check out my last podcast where I talk about all the many different options in the 2nd, 3rd, even 4th round of left tackles the Patriots could take. But talking about Will Campbell today, because it's becoming increasingly likely the Patriots select him at 4th overall. One, because it looks like Travis Hunter will not be available with the veteran quarterbacks the New York Giants have acquired this offseason. But 2, because of his arm length. He hit the threshold. He hit 33 inches. And look, we know that's not something that was that important to Dante Scarnecchia. There's plenty of quotes with him saying, like, there are plenty of ways to overcome a lack of arm length for a tackle in the NFL. It's really all about fundamentals. But him hitting that number is going to help quite a bit, and I think it's going to make the Patriots consider him a lot more. And I've read reports that there are people in the Patriots organization that really like Will Campbell, and he's done a top 30 visit already with the Patriots. 6'6", 319 pounds, so decent size. Arm length, 32 5/8 or 33 inches, we don't really know. His weaknesses, we've talked about the arms plenty. He has a tendency to overset versus speed rushers. Narrow base, weakened sustained blocks. High pad level in space. He's got tight shoulders. Predictable punch timing against really talented pass rushers, which there are going to be plenty in the NFL. But that's about it. Other than that, elite recovery ability, outstanding grip strength and hand placement, exceptional football IQ against stunts, blitzes, master pass protection technician, nasty run game finisher. I've seen him pancake plenty of players over the last year. Fluid second level blocker, exceptional anchor, natural knee bender. We know he's an excellent fit if the arm length isn't an issue, right? I mean, look, if the Patriots take Will Campbell at 4th overall, they've done it, right? They've addressed every need this offseason and then some. They've added depth at the linebacker position. They've added a very solid number two cornerback who would be a number 1 at most places. They added a number 1 wide receiver, at least a guy who will be number 1 in New England. And from recent reports, according to Adam Schefter, Stephon Diggs is on track to be ready to go week 1 of the NFL season. We'll see if it happens, but he's on track. Now you just need the left tackle. And yeah, is Will Campbell the 4th best player on most teams' draft boards? No, he's probably somewhere between 10 and 15. But you take him, you've addressed left tackle. And as I said on the last podcast, it's possible it doesn't work out, right? But Will Campbell is a talented enough player that if it doesn't work out at left tackle, Leighton Robinson, Cole Strange, Sidney So, we're not certain those guys are long-term solutions at left guard for the Patriots. We'll see how it plays out. But you can just move Will Campbell over to left guard and then address the tackle position again the next season, either via free agency after the Patriots have built some clout with Mike Vrabel and having more dynamic players on the roster. Hopefully they've improved at least an 8-9 win team next year. Then maybe you can get the best left tackle to come via free agency, or you take the best available left tackle the first round in the draft, and then you have Will Campbell, who maybe isn't an all-pro level left tackle, but could be an all-pro level left guard. Who knows what's going to happen at center, but they're working it out. Cole Strange, Ben Brown, Garrett Bradbury, they'll figure it out. Maybe draft someone. Mike Onwenu, who should be an all-pro level right guard. Wasn't that last season, but he should be. And then you get Morgan Moses, who's at least a bridge right tackle, but you have him under contract for a few years. Caden Wallace is developing. Maybe that works out on the far right side. They could have a decent offensive line, by next season if they draft Will Campbell. And by the following season, they could have one of the better offensive lines in the league, regardless of how Will Campbell plays. Because you could just kick him over to left guard. Or if he's a great left tackle, great. You've taken care of it already. Drake May's blind side is protected for years to come. It's a risk, right? But as I said, it's really just the arm length issues. The shoulders, the wingspan. That's it for the most part. High pad level at times, can overset a little too much. His punch timing can be a little predictable, but these are minor issues that can be corrected, right? Had a 94% rating in pass protection according to Draft Buzz. Good run blocker. Is going to fit both zone and gap concepts. Would be fine with Josh McDaniels and the power run. Gave up 2 sacks, 4 pressures his last season at LSU. 12 starts, 745 snaps. Not the best numbers in this draft, but he's going up against SEC competition. Then when you factor that in, maybe these are the best numbers in the draft, right? I mean, that holds a lot of weight. Some of these other tackles, even Ohio State, are they going up against better competition than SEC competition? Josh Simmons? I don't think so. So Will Campbell, only 2 sacks last year, 4 pressures. Year before, only had 1 sack, 3 pressures, and 13 starts at LSU. And he started as a freshman, too. 2 sacks. So he had 5 total sacks over the course of 3 years at LSU. As Will Campbell said, the tape shows he's a starting NFL left tackle. The arm length shows he might not be, but the tape does show a little bit that he can overcompensate for that, but I don't know. I'm starting to warm up to the idea. Again, I'd much prefer Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, and then you take one of the tackles in the second round that I talked about on yesterday's podcast, or trade back into the late first round and get one of the better tackles there. Josh Simmons might be available in the 20s. Connerly Jr., there's a bunch of players Patriots could go after, and then add maybe a depth piece. The kid from William Mary, Ozzie Trapillo from Boston College. Not the worst idea, but another idea, what the Patriots could do at 4th overall, and this is gaining a lot of traction. Just heard Taylor Kyles talking about this about an hour ago. Armin Membu, right tackle from the University of Missouri. Little undersized, 6'4", weighs more than Will Campbell, 332 pounds, 33.5-inch arms. Played right tackle his entire career, his entire college career at least, at the University of Missouri. Gave up 2 sacks, 5 pressures this year. Still SEC, so against good competition and worse blocking around him relative to the LSU Tigers. Second team All SEC each of the last 2 years. He was in a rotational role early as a freshman, but did start 5 games, so he eventually popped. He's the most talented player, potentially the most talented tackle in this draft, and the reason he's moved up all the draft boards, he had an incredible NFL scouting combine, and we know the weaknesses. The below average height, can be over aggressive at times, late punch timing, unrefined drive blocking, needs to prove power handling against NFL length, but super athletic, masterful body control, powerful hand strikes, veteran level stunt blitz processing, similar to Will Campbell, high-end athletic traits, nasty finisher, quick-footed in zone runs, varied pass sets, has a 91% pass protection rating according to Draft Buzz. I think he's better suited than Will Campbell for the Patriots. Quick game that I think Josh McDaniels is going to try to stress a lot this year with the lack of protection Drake May is likely to have. I think he's a better fit for that. Better fit for play action needs. His height is an issue. Some people think he could switch the left tackle at the NFL. A lot of people think he could switch the left tackle, but a lot of people also think he's a potential guard, especially because of his height. So, Armin Membu is the high ceiling option, right? This guy has the chance, based off of his traits, his athleticism, he has the chance to be an all-pro level left tackle. He also has the chance to be a terrible NFL left tackle who fails at that position, potentially fails at right tackle, and ends up having to play guard. And I also don't think you could kick him over to guard as easily as you could Will Campbell if it doesn't work out at left tackle. So, I know a lot of people really like Armin Membu. I wouldn't be upset the Patriots took him at 4th overall, but they're going to be doing what they tried with Caden Wallace. Now, he is a more talented player than Caden Wallace. I think he's better fit to make the transition from right tackle to left tackle than Wallace was last year. Again, I still have no idea if Wallace is still trying to do that or if they're putting him in at right tackle for the long term. But Will Campbell, starting left tackle for the LSU Tigers, 3 years in a row in the SEC, gave up 5 sacks his entire career in the SEC. Some concerns with arm length, but I think worst case scenario with Will Campbell is you are improving at left tackle. You're certainly improving from Vidarian Lowe, and he will get you by as a bridge for a year before you turn him into a very good left guard. I think that is the worst case scenario for Will Campbell. Best case scenario, I don't think he's an all-pro left tackle, but I think he could be a Pro Bowl left tackle. I think that's the best case scenario for Will Campbell. Armin Membu, worst case scenario, it just doesn't work out at all, and we're back where we were next offseason. Best case scenario, he is an all-pro level left tackle. So, it depends. Do you want to go with the high-risk, high-ceiling player, low floor, or do you want to go with the high-floor, lower-ceiling player in Will Campbell? Curious to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below, but I think the best plan might be to take Will Campbell. So, look, I think the Patriots, if Travis Hunter or Abdul are not available, they're probably going to be forced to do this. Again, at the very least, Will Campbell has the potential to be a superstar guard in the NFL, and maybe Membu too. But, like I said, you could put Campbell or Membu at left tackle for a season, address the position again next year if it doesn't work out, and then kick that player over to left guard. That's what the Commanders are doing. They drafted Brandon Coleman from TCU in the 3rd round last year. He started at left tackle for Washington. They've since traded for Laramie Tunsil, one of the best left tackles in the NFL. He'll start at that position. And then Coleman, as far as we know, will either be moved to guard or he's going to start at the right tackle position. That's not a bad idea, especially in a draft where the top-tier tackle talent isn't what it was in previous years. Will Campbell could be a very, very, very good NFL guard, and he has the potential to be a good NFL left tackle. Might be worth taking unless you really assess a player like Ashton Genty, Ted McMillan, Tyler Warren, an explosive, dynamic, especially offensive player, and you think they should go at 4th overall. I think you probably have to stick and pick and take the tackle. Or trade back, right? I think trading back is the best plan. I just don't know if you're going to find a team that wants to do it. Tom Brady's connection with the Las Vegas Raiders and Shedeur Sanders, maybe that's a team that would trade up, and then you're only trading back a couple of spots. I would think Will Campbell would still be available at that point, but I don't know if you're going to have a ton of suitors, since there's only 2 to 3 blue chip players in this year's draft. But yeah, Will Campbell, Armin Membu, this might be the best plan if and only if they don't address left tackle in free agency. Tyron Smith is still available. No idea what's going on with him. Played with Morgan Moses last year. Hopefully Moses can get him on the phone if he hasn't already and convince him to come to New England as a bridge player. He's hardly a bridge player. You can probably expect 8 to 10 games out of him at best. But then you don't have to worry about drafting a tackle in the 1st round, and then you can have a guy that can learn from Tyron Smith and eventually take over the position, or if he's not ready, you put Vidarian Lowe out there, God forbid. That could work. I don't know. I still think you go after Tyron Smith if you can. That gives the Patriots the ultimate flexibility to take the best player available. So we'll see how it plays out. Let me know in the comments below. If Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are off the board, what do you think the Patriots should do at 4th overall? Do you like Will Campbell and Armin Membu? Do you have a preference between one of those players? Do you think it should be someone else? Do you think they should trade back? And if they trade back, who will be available? Who should they take then? Curious to hear from you. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We'll be back very soon with more New England Patriots coverage.